A winding path. I went to All Saints Catholic School in Algiers for my junior high years. I was christened and made my first communion and confirmation, all within a few weeks' time. I went to midnight mass on New Year's Eve, sunrise mass on Easter, and catechism every day. Some things about being Catholic disturbed me. The nuns were full of horror stories about children who had sassed Mother Superior and then had fatal accidents. I realized that some of the priests drank too much liquor. The altar boys tried to rape us in the backyards. I was taught that due to the transubstantiation of matter, the priest was drinking Christ's actual blood in that cup, and the tasteless wafer he put in my mouth was somebody's flesh. I was told that any sin I thought about committing had to be confessed, just like the ones I actually committed. There was no reward for self-discipline. It didn't take me long to get the hang of the game. Just do whatever you want to do. Then go confess. I noticed that certain prayers earned me 300 years indulgence off my eternity in purgatory. But when I tried to subtract these, I still came out with eternity. My confirmation, the ritual that was supposed to strengthen my faith, served to undermine it. As I walked away from the altar, it dawned on me that this white man had slapped my face, however gently, and that I had kissed his hands when he did it. I didn't like people playing in my face, but I struggled to be a good Catholic. I promised Papa I would. It was not until 1968, after careful analysis of the fact that the Pope and the nuns eat well and have clothes on their backs and much respect, that I decided to set fire to the Pope. But while at All Saints, I was faithful. I worked in the convent, ironing habits, and was assigned the job of waxing the statues in the church. One day, while I was waxing the statue of Mary, her eyes moved. I was excited and frightened, but took this as a sign that she was watching over me. I bought an image of Our Lady of Perpetual Help and a candle and prayed to her to please take me out of the house of my father. This picture was alive. I used to pace up and down the length of the room. No matter where I went, her eyes followed me. Sometimes I turn around to sharply try to catch her looking at me or somewhere else, but she was always watching me. I thought I felt her talk. I used to try putting various things on the altar I'd constructed to see what she liked. She liked candles and water and candy bars. About this time, I also started to sleepwalk. One of my younger sisters told me that I was parading the floor at night, but I didn't believe her. One night, however, I dreamed that I was flying and woke up to find myself dressed in my gym clothes, tennis shoes wet, and the seat of the children's swing outside broken. I concentrated on Our Lady of Perpetual Help. I begged her, please take me away from here, away from my crazy father who mows down the vegetable garden, snatches my phone from the wall, and tells me that I'm an animal. Please take me away from the mound of baby diapers I face every morning and the tired eyes of my mother who works 12 hours every night. Please take me away from the man down the street, Ms. So-and-so's husband who tries to rape me every time he comes home and finds me babysitting. Please take me away from the nuns at school who whip me for asking questions. Please take me away from the white folks who shoot at me when I'm standing on the highway waiting for the bus to go to school. Please take me away from the neighborhood girls who are prettier and finer than me but want to fight me because I got better grades. Please, Mother of God, take me away. Take me away. Take me. Take me. At age 14, she answered my prayer. My Aunt Cecilia, my father's sister who came to visit from California, when she left, she took me with her. And all praise is due Aunt Seal. We drove across country from Louisiana to Palm Springs, California. I was seeing the world. In Texas, I saw Chicanos for the very first time. Although I'd seen white men made up to look like Chicanos on television, when I saw these people with my own eyes, I thought they must be kin to the Romaine, Dupree, or Shoshone families who were all fair-skinned. When we came to the Great Mountains, I imagined I saw dead Indians embedded in the rocks. And in the desert, I amused myself speculating about what was under the sand. I discovered that even way out here in California, everybody was kin to me. Cousins and aunties, sisters and big mamas were all over the place. And I could still get 5 scoldings and 2 whippings before I got home. I was Small Changes, my aunt's nickname. Lost daughter, come home. In my aunt's house, I was one of 6 children. It meant more freedom. I was not accustomed to it. I wasted a lot of time in adolescent mental meanderings, but I also had time to go to the library. I read everything and anything I could get my hands on, but it wasn't much. I went to Palm Springs High School with celebrities' children, Missy Montgomery, Dinah Shore's daughter, and Valentine Skelton, Red's daughter. But I worked after school as a maid, a cook, or a babysitter, and hung out with my kin and the Native American kids from the Windy Point Reservation. One day, I was walking across the desert complaining about my poverty. I saw something over yonder that asked for my attention. As I approached the thing, I saw a lizard carcass. I kicked the thing aside and found a 20 bill stuck in the sand. Shortly after John F. Kennedy was killed, my aunt packed up her family and moved to Los Angeles. No one was kin to me here. It seemed I found myself on the fringe of the street gangs. Somehow I managed to become a member of the Devil Vic Queens, living in Slauson territory. I played the part, hung out on 51st and 54th and Vermont streets through the Big G for gladiators, hand signed, and gained social status by being chosen as the piece of the most important boys in the gang. But thanks to my intuition, I survived the knife fights, rumbles, and shootouts unscathed. Within the school, I was a social misfit, so I befriended a small group of girls from New Orleans. We ate together to protect ourselves from being teased about our southern accents. We dreamed of going home and marrying a Baptiste, Roche, or Jean-Pierre brother. I met a teacher who inspired me to write. She defended me from the girls' vice principal, who saw me as a disciplinary problem because I was questioning the school's rules. She was my first white woman friend sister. Before that, I had only been a maid, cook, or babysitter to them. She told me that I had a gift, one she wanted to help cultivate. She invited me to her home, loaned me her books, gave me clothes. Under her guidance, I learned to write and was elected editor of the school's paper and sat on the student body government. Miss Joan Bailey, my dance teacher, also took interest in me. On Friday afternoon, she called me aside. She told me that I had great potential as a dancer and asked if I could spend an extra hour with her before running off to my neighborhood youth corps job at the post office. I was so happy I didn't know what to do. When I returned to school on Monday morning, my writing teacher told me gently that Joan Bailey was dead. She had an accident on her way to work that Friday morning, but got out of her car and came to work. She belonged to a religion that didn't believe in doctors. Her roommate came home from a weekend retreat and found her spread eagle across her bed. I went into a rage and announced that I would choke the piss out of anyone who tried to write her obituary. I made her obituary the feature story of the next issue of the school paper. She was cremated, and I promised the ashes in the urn that I would be a dancer, the best goddamn dancer that I could be. During my high school years, I had my secret studies: voodoo and magic, mythology, and sex. The material available was trash. I would encounter a spell in a book and test it on myself. Believe me, I I made some mistakes. Through trial and error, in the summer of 1966, I graduated from Manual Arts High School in Los Angeles with a major and honors in journalism and an unsung minor in voodoo. That summer, I taught dance at an Upward Bound program at Marymount College in Palo Verde, California. My freshman year in college found me in a small United Church of Christ school, Pacific University, in Forest Grove, Oregon. It was good to be away from the demons that loomed on the street corners of Los Angeles. I enjoyed the rain and the lush greenery of the state, but some of the townspeople demonstrated their resentment over the influx of Negroes into their sleepy little town. One evening, as I was on my way to a local theater, some white men in a truck shot at me. Out of sheer rage, I became a campus political activist. There were only a few black students at the college on scholarships, 35 at most, grateful and trying our best not to be too conspicuous. The Watts riots were still fresh in our minds. We were urged by our counselors to go into the social sciences where we could uplift our people and be good Christians. My college experience confused me. I would confront a God is Dead Excellentialism course and a philosophy of religion course, both in 1 year. I mean, seriously, a God is Dead Existentialism course and a philosophy of religion course, both in 1 year. The Greeks with their pantheon of gods were exalted in literature, while the drama department exclaimed that no plays were written for my people except those with parts of maids and menials. I temporarily dropped my occult studies and tried to become an intellectual. It did not work. I'd marched in local civil rights demonstrations in Los Angeles. When Martin Luther King Jr. was killed, I made the trek to Washington, D.C. for the Poor People's Campaign. Then I became a Black Power advocate. I transferred to Reed College in Portland, lived off campus in the albino ghetto area, joined the Black Student Union, and fought for Black Studies as a member of the negotiating team. I supported Pan-Africanism by studying and teaching in the community freedom schools. Now, the rhetoric about the Black woman's rightful place began pouring down onto me. Some dude named, Mionin, had written a report saying that the Black man's problem was the Black woman. When I said that I had fought as hard as any man for my freedom, I was told to go read the masculine protest. The brothers decided who we were to become. We were to be warriors by day, Cleopatra by night, workers and teachers in between. They decided that my most important job was to have babies and teach those babies African culture. But the sisters were busy paying homage to a goddess. I and several other women I knew constructed small altars in our bedrooms consecrated to the worship of the birth control pill. In contrast to the mood of the times, I was more interested in the Orisha, goddesses, gods, than in the great kings of Africa. The great kings seemed bourgeoisie to me, all except Shaka the Zulu, and too far above the common people. I was in heaven reading folk tales about bush creatures and sacred trees, looking at pictures of people who looked like people from home. I discovered that the mosque at Sankor in Timbuktu had been the learning center of the ancient world. Africans were intelligent people. But there were things that disturbed me too. African participation in the slave trade and polygamy were enough to turn me away from the motherland. Almost, but not quite. I still love the cloth and the food, the names, which I mispronounced, and the calories, the music, and the dance. When I attempted to teach what I was learning about African religion, I was hit with the materialistic point of view. The white folks got all the money, and we got all the signs. My male peers decided that belief in spiritual things was our second biggest problem. The black woman was our first. I was both. Once I argued with a brother who was a leader in the community and someone that I respected, that I didn't understand why we were wearing dashikis and speaking Kiswahili while choosing to ignore African religion when it was the cornerstone of African culture. He answered by saying that what had survived of it in Black America was crippling garbage. Opium. He said that it was counter-revolutionary to praise ancestors who had allowed us to fall into slavery. I was again defeated and gave up temporarily.